What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, and the movie I want to take a look at right now is The Goldfinch. Now, this one comes from Warner Brothers. It is directed by John Crowley, and this one tells the story of Theo, played by Oakes Fegley, and he and his mother go to a museum of art, and there's a bunch of paintings around. They go around, and they're just enjoying their day, and unfortunately, at the exact moment that they're looking at the Goldfinch painting, there's a terrorist act that happens, and a lot of people are killed in this museum, including Theo's mom. So he's placed into foster care, and the first family he kind of ends up with is a wealthy family in New York, and the mother is played by Nicole Kidman. And from that point on, he meets a bunch of people that might be directly tied to some people in the museum, or maybe other family members. And so, just in case if you want to watch the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you, but he meets a bunch of different people after this attack, coping with the loss of his mother, turning to drugs, meeting possible romantic relationships, new motherly figures in his life. So he meets a bunch of different people, so we kind of get to see him grow as he does that, starting as a young boy and then eventually getting into his 20s, and that person is played by Ansel Elgort. So this is based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning book, and you figure with that stamp of approval on a book, this movie would be taken care of to the highest level. Like, everything needs to be perfect. Because if you mess up something like this, that's something that's well known, and it's got one of the highest honors you could ever receive in media. I mean, you can't mess it up. So I'll start with the marketing. I really like the marketing to this movie. The trailers, looked solid. They looked really nice. The music, appropriately fit. It looked like a sweeping epic. A character that we were going to follow from start to finish, and see the addiction process, and see them at their low points, their high points, and see, if all these people surrounding them in their lives can get them out of this dark hole that they're in following a very tragic event such as losing your mom. And so, I mean, it's like, once again, the recipe for success, right? And then TIFF comes along, the Toronto International Film Festival, and my God, it's almost as if the film itself became a person and just slapped these critics like children in the face, and then just ran off, and then they hunted it down and threw it out to pasture. This movie got put through the ringer, and I have not seen a slaughtering like this in a long time. And then there was one critic on there on Twitter that was circulating. I don't follow him, but some people I follow like his tweet, and it's David Ehrlich from IndieWire. When I saw this film as a total disaster, I was like, oh no. So this film is bad in every department. Directing, writing, acting, cinematography, costume, production, editing, everything. Everything's a disaster. I can tell you, after all that whirlwind, going into it a little skeptical. When I came out of it, it's a bad movie. But it has merits to it, and it actually has potential in some scenes to where I can sit here and tell you, yeah, my grade's going to be bad, but it's not a complete disaster. A movie to use the word disaster has to mean it fails at every single front. This movie does not fail at every single front. So starting with the positives to this movie, once again, you cannot touch Roger Deakins as a cinematographer. He is a master for a reason. This movie looks crisp. It looks warm. It looks inviting. It's a pleasant movie to look at. Roger Deakins is an expert at messing with lighting, shot composition, and setting the scene, setting the mood. That's what he does. I mean, there's a lot of scenes in this movie that, play a lot with sunlight, with lamps, and they operate with the fluorescent lightings, the warm gold hues of the lamps. Like, he knows how to balance all that out and just make it a vibrant looking picture. There's a couple of sunset shots in this where it's like, that's classic Deakins, dealing with silhouettes and the backdrop of the sunset, and just having that contrast. It looks beautiful. He knows how to set a scene. There's a couple times where the scene is divided up into sunlight and lamp lighting, or fluorescent lighting and lamp lighting. It's just, he can balance both in the same shot. Like, it's impressive to look at. But once again, it's Roger Deakins. So he's definitely the highest point of this film, bar none. I don't even need to discuss it anymore. The costume and the production design, are good. It is what it is. They work in an antique shop in a couple scenes. They're in a wealthy house and it looks nice. It looks like something a wealthy family would buy. So I don't consider those failures. Nicole Kidman and Jeffrey Wright, they were given very little material to work with, and they're barely in the movie when you think about the grand scheme of this thing, which is 2.5 hours long. They're fine for what they're given. Nicole Kidman plays this motherly figure to him. She's sweet, she's caring, and it's Nicole Kidman. She can make anything like extraordinary. And Jeffrey Wright's also, pretty good in this movie too. He's a mentor towards Theo, and he's got this kind of grandfatherly, like, welcoming figure about him, where he's just kind of teaching him about life and maybe how to cope with stuff. And it's just, I don't know, it was a nice little performance. So okay, and then one more good thing, and then I'll dive into some stuff. And I guess the sun is getting blocked out by a cloud. So the last good thing I will say is that there is potential. There is potential in some of these scenes where it feels like I can feel John Crowley setting this up, or the screenwriter setting it up, and they're going about 75% of the way, and then it just kind of drops off this cliff where it doesn't find like a resolution or like a nice transitional tie-in from the previous scene or just whatever. That's where it just kind of goes awry, is that like there's setup and there's great potential in some of these scenes to make a great story. As I was watching this movie, I saw something great in this. It could have been something special. But let's get to some of the bad stuff. The worst thing about this movie is the directing and the screenwriting. This movie is misguided in its structure. Typically when movies do a non-linear story structure, we're going in and out through different time periods, different character perspectives. Hey, we'll show this, and then we'll jump to this, which might be in the future, in the past, or a different character, and we'll follow them for a while, and then we'll go back to what we were previously seeing in the first scene. That is a style of storytelling. It works sometimes. There is just a straightforward storytelling from point A to Z. We could have seen Theo grow up and just show him go from house to house, and then grow up in Ansel Elgort, and then continue on the journey. That could have been also a possibility. The problem with this movie is that the first half of the movie is non-linear, and then there's a certain point that hits that just does a straight narrative. So that's already problem number one. And problem number two is that we're going back and forth through a bunch of different things so quickly that there's not enough time for any emotional resonance to take place. It feels hollow. It feels like this movie that has this given structure of a story that feels like it could be just filled with meaty goodness, right? And then it just feels like this body of a film that's just, it's hollow. There's nothing in this. Because they spend so much time on, certain things, and they'll flip to something else that's in the future, then they'll go back to the past, then they'll go back into the future, but it was like in the past from the previous scene. It's crazy how this thing is structured, and so it's just jumbled and it's all over the place. It feels jaded. It feels like there's no like main string holding this thing together. It's just random scenes placed together to string something together so they could release it. That's not how you're supposed to look at it. So I don't care. I don't know how to solve it. I don't know if you do the whole non-linear route or the full straightforward narrative route. Do a little bit of both. Make it better. I don't know how you solve this problem, but it just seemed like it was a movie that was structured at random, and it did not work. And when you structure things in a random order like that and it doesn't flow, then each scene is just happening, and then the next scene's happening, and there's no tie-in, there's no weight to it. So when there's something dramatic happening or something heavy happening, because this is a very thematically heavy movie, then there's nothing there. There's nothing for you to grasp onto. So you're sitting there watching this hollow 2.5 hour long movie pretty much, which is too long, by the way. And you start to feel that runtime. You're like, can we please just make this end? And then towards the end, like, it gets into this weird part of the story where it feels like a different movie, and you're like, I just want it to end, man. It's just not a good experience. So I could see the potential there in what they were setting up, but it's just it did not work on that front. Just very hollow and very misguided, I would say. But this movie can be fixed and it can be rewritten. Be an expensive process, but you can do it. And another thing before I get into some of the performances is that drug addiction is a pretty serious thing. I'd say it's a pretty serious thing, right? And I think we can all agree on that. So I don't know how the book is. I'm not going to even try to guess what happens in the book in terms of the drug addiction thing, but it seems like it's a pretty big part in this movie. And it's treated as like an afterthought, which is really kind of, I don't know, just very off-putting, because there's certain scenes where like he's doing it, he's crushing up the I think it's Valium pills, and he's just snorting them away, and then he just moves on, and then we won't see him do anything for like 30-40 minutes, and then he goes back to it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a part of his character, but he doesn't make it seem like it is. Like, it's so strange how they portray the drug addiction thing, because I'm not saying that you have to have him snort something every 5 minutes, but when you're doing it as just kind of like a backdrop thing, and you're going so hard on it, when you do show it and then it's just kind of lost by the wayside, it makes it seem like it was just put there for no reason. If you're going to put it there and say this is the reason why he wants to numb the pain from remembering his mom in that day, then that's fine. But that didn't come through in the narrative. So it just makes it seem like he snorts Valium for nothing. Or if he just does it to get a little high, and that's cool, but like, I don't know, it's just weird, because like he does it, and like, you know, the movie makes it seem like it's so powerful, but like, he only does it a couple times, and then they make a big deal out of it a couple times. I don't know, it's strange. You should have just kept it out, or put it in there and made it mean something. It doesn't mean anything when he just does it, and then you just want the audience to assume that he does it to cope with his mom, the loss of his mom. It just... anyways, I mentioned Nicole Kidman and Jeffrey Wright as good performers in this, you know, doing the best that they can. I'm going to start with some of the adults first, and I'll move to the kids. Luke Wilson and Sarah Paulson is in this. They're totally miscast. Why are they in this? I mean, they're dealing with a lot of heavy stuff, given the roles that they're in. And they're trying so hard, and Sarah Paulson's a great actress. So it seemed like this, you know, was one of her early acting jobs. And then Luke Wilson, he's good in the right scenario, not this scenario. So they did not fit their roles at all. They were more of an annoyance than anything. And I was like, I appreciate you trying. It's just not working for me. So Luke Wilson and Sarah Paulson are totally miscast in this thing. All the kids are terrible. Every single one of them. Oaks Fegley is bad, and he's the main person we're following. The kids around him are bad. There's a scene where like they're both like cursing at each other, like throwing disses at each other. And I'm no idiot. I grew up with a lot of guy friends in my school. We roast each other all the time. They were like cursing and like roasting each other as if like a 40 or 50-year-old man wrote this script and was just like, oh, this is how kids talk nowadays. And like they directed them to act like they sound like robots, like they've never done this before. So it didn't feel genuine. There was no chemistry there. And so it just felt really awkward watching them spat off. It's really awkward dialogue. And that has to go with most of the chemistry in this movie. Everyone was just kind of like, just there, performing in front of another person, and just you didn't feel it. You didn't feel that bond that they're supposed to have, so that fell off. Man, yeah, some of the kids were just bad. There was one kid that literally came into a dining room and said, "Who do I have to blow to get a cup of coffee?" and just left. And then you forgot about him for 30 minutes, and then there's a scene that happens where he's an adult already. What? Thanks for setting up that character for us. It's stuff like that just kind of annoys you. And there's also like another scene that highlights like an issue with the structure in this movie where like we see Oaks Fegley on a bus, and then the next scene cuts, he's in a classroom talking to Finn Wolfhard's character, which by the way, he's terrible in this movie. He has like a Russian accent. Doesn't work. And then it cuts back to the bus, and Finn Wolfhard sits next to him and goes, "Hey, how's it going?" Couldn't you have structured that a little differently? Maybe show the classroom first, cut to the first shot of the school bus, maybe him looking up, seeing Finn Wolfhard come and sit next to him. Wouldn't it be a little bit more impactful than cutting it up the way you did? Once again, I'm just giving you guys examples on the clear, like, just jumbled nature of this film. So, I guess suppose the music is fine. So to wrap it all up, as you can tell, I love this movie. No, I didn't really care for it. I don't really care to see it again. I wouldn't recommend it as an adaptation or just a movie in general. This is one of those stories to where I won't give up on it. If they want to do another adaptation of this in my lifetime in the future, I'll give it a shot. I'll watch it. But this is not it for me. So I'm going to give the Goldfinch a D+. I don't know what else more to say, but let me know down below if you've seen this movie or what you thought of it. Have you read the book? Let me know how the book is. I don't really read that much because I'm a dummy, but I would like to read more, so please recommend it to me down in the comments if you find this book worth reading. But let me know about the Goldfinch movie as well. That will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.